make their head drop.
Another episode with Off the Mat with Donny Whitted. This is a special one. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Gerry Abas. Thank you for coming on Off the Mat with Donny Whitted, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Man, so I don't know really where to start off, man. There's so much to talk about with you, man. From your wrestling career to your brothers, but now two brothers that I found out, and your son. Well, let's start off with this. What got Gerry Abas in the sport of wrestling?
Well, my older brother was wrestling in college.
Okay.
And called me on the phone and said, "Hey, would you like to go to a tournament that's near you?" And I have never practiced before, but I had a pair of his shoes.
Okay.
And I looked up to him so much, and and I didn't spend a lot of time with him, so I always wanted to get my older brother excited about me. So and he called me. I was like, "Hey, I'll go." And so it was just out of the blue. Went to a tournament. I like 3 days in advance. Never practiced. Yeah, didn't have a singlet.
Just stepped on the
and a
mat.
T-shirt. Yeah.
It was ready to go. Wow,
Yeah.
How crazy is that? And he was at college. What college was he at?
He was at University of New Mexico.
University of New
Lobos,
Mexico.
yeah.
The Lobos. They
Yeah.
had a wrestling
They had a
team at the
team.
time. Wow, I didn't know that.
And he was an All-American too.
All-American.
His senior year.
And what was his name?
Greg Gascon.
Greg Gascon.
Yeah. 118s.
118s.
Small.
And he got you in the sport of wrestling. Just said, "Hey, man, it's a tournament right by you. We going."
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you on the mat.
Yes, that's it.
And
That's how it went.
and what grade were you in?
I was 7th grade.
7th grade, and
Yeah.
it just snowballed from there.
Oh man, I fell in love. you
Okay.
know? Oh yeah. I mean, it had a lot to do. I was a breakdancer before I got into wrestling. So
Okay.
that body awareness, that those butterflies, you stepping in that circle, it was like I was feeling all that. And then when I hit a good move in wrestling, I heard that same sound that I heard in the
Wow.
breakdancing, that ooh. And I was like, I know that sound.
You know that sound,
And I,
right.
I like that sound.
like that.
Let's go. That's
and,
right.
And breakdancing was big back then, especially
Early 80s.
especially in the Bay Area, man. I mean, that was something you guys did. We did a little bit in Chicago. I was a little young, but it wasn't like that Bay Area. I remember my dad was on the school board, and we went to California. He had a convention in California. We was in Anaheim, and we ended up going over to I want to say Venice Beach. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. I remember seeing these guys, the WWF guys on the beach lifting weights. Then I see all these guys breakdancing. That's when I knew it was pretty big out there, and that was something you was. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah,
man.
it was an amazing time. Being a 7th grade teenager in the Bay Area and an inner city. We were just running the streets. And it was funny because a couple years before, my dance crew that I had joined.
What was the name of them?
It was Rec City Rockers.
Rec City Rockers.
You can't Google that, man. It's nowhere. But there were 7 of us, and we were. It was awesome. It was a great time. We would practice in my friend's basement.
Okay.
And when we were practicing our breakdancing move, it was like we were practicing for battle.
Right.
We had to defend our turf. The moves better be crisp, because we about to lose our turf. And so we would practice literally. Breakdancing, and so many breakdance moves are hard. Later on, fast forward, when it comes to teaching wrestling, man, you could chop up wrestling moves, but you can't chop up a windmill.
No,
you
you
cannot
can't do
chop
that.
up. It's like trying to chop up how to ride a bike.
Right.
You just can't do
Can't
it.
do it,
You
right.
gotta go feel it. How you learn how to, you better feel it.
Right.
And so being able to create these crazy momentums and hold these balance took dedication and focus.
Right.
And that's just applied it to wrestling as well.
Right.
I had great body awareness, body control, and before I got into wrestling, and then it just helped.
So maybe that's probably because I would call you. People talk about funk wrestling. Back in the day, you know, it ain't gonna last, you know, gimmick wrestling. And I remember watching you, man, and on the mat, and it was just so fun to watch. You know what I mean? Wrestling, you know, you had your Iowa guys and stuff like that, boom, boom, boom.
Styles.
But to watch you, you know, man, wrestle was fun. It was electric. You know, ain't no telling what this guy's about to do. You know, and so now learning that you was in breakdancing, so you basically brung that to the sport of wrestling, Gerry.
100%.
How did you
You know,
do
there's
that?
this. We have this term in breakdancing called originality stands alone.
Okay.
And so you got to be creative. And breakdancing, you can't copy anybody's move. You can't do
Right.
anything that anybody else has ever done. Or
Right.
you get this universal symbol.
Right.
You're a biter.
Right.
And you already lost now. You just lost the battle. Because I
Right.
just saw that move from this other crew.
Got
and so
you.
you copied. You
Wow.
lost. You ain't got no creativity. You ain't got no originality.
Got you.
You lose. So in breakdancing, you had to come up with stuff that people ain't seen before to get your cred.
Wow. And so you just brought that
Brought
over to the
that.
sport of wrestling.
Saying, yes, I'm doing it different. I'm
mean-
gonna show different.
I mean, we got the, you know, Ben Askrens of the world, that kind of, you know, but I will always say, this dude was doing it before Ben.
Yeah, for
I don't know,
sure.
maybe Ben watched you, but
Yeah.
I mean, the rolling in the matches and things of that nature, like you was just having fun. I remember watching that NCAA finals match with you and Michael Ravy. I mean, you put points up on the board. It just seemed like you was just out there wrestling, just
Yeah.
carefree in the NCAA title match. I mean, I loved it.
Getting at
I mean, it didn't matter how it ended up, but just watching you getting out there, man, and doing your thing, and I mean, putting points up on the board just seemed like that carefree, you know, style of wrestling fits you, man, and I can see why with the breakdancing.
Yeah.
Now,
You gotta have flavor.
Yeah.
And you can't be like anybody else. You know.
and you was definitely
I was
unique.
trying.
You was definitely unique, man. No one was doing
trying.
that, man. No one could put a peg on it. No one knew what it was. Like I said, you hear people, you know, say, "Hey, this gimmick wrestling or this ain't gonna last." It, you know, but now, fast
Almost
forward,
basic.
now it's a part of wrestling.
Yeah.
And if you can't scramble, you're probably not gonna be beating the best of the best. You know what I mean? So
right. Real
how do you
talk.
feel about that, man? I would say the godfather of this style of wrestling.
I appreciate that. You know, I mean, I've gotten credit for this a lot, and I would say I didn't create this move. I just discovered it.
Right.
It was there. It was always been
Always
there,
there,
and
right.
it don't belong to me.
Right.
It belongs to the children.
Right.
It belongs to everyone else to teach and to share. You know, and so I really appreciate. You know, it's just I was so passionate. And I'm passionate about the sport. And when that move came out about when I was in the practice room in college, and now, mind you, this is 1992 at the NCAA
Right.
championship. There's video footage of me hitting that roll. So if anybody ever wants to say who did this first, you know,
Right.
and nobody's seen it. And in the beginning, man, Donnie, that first year, it was neat because very good wrestlers didn't even know what the heck.
No, I
And
know,
man,
man.
it was so fun, bro, because
Man.
people didn't know what was going on, and it was easy, and that probably caught on really quick, right off the
Yeah.
bat, you know, for a while. But it's interesting because the evolution of the funk roll, the Abas roll,
Yeah.
or you call it, some people call leg passing a technical term. The evolution of is when I did this move, my college coach didn't like it.
Right.
He thought it was garbage.
Right.
You know, don't do that. I do it on Saturday, all Saturday. Then on Monday, my teammates trying to ask me to show it to them.
Wow.
And my coach is like, "Don't be showing that garbage in here."
exactly.
And as the years started going on, then coaches started saying, "Well, only the funky wrestlers can
do
do
that,
it. Only the
right.
funky. You got to be
Yeah,
funky,
athletic or something
no,
like that.
the athletic came a couple years later.
okay,
Oh,
okay.
only the athletic
Right.
kids now. And now to me, it's just it's basic. I've been doing it so long, I can show it like it's basic skill. You know, the easy part of taking that leg and rolling. I can
Right.
show a beginner wrestler how to do it. So it's just interesting. The evolution went from being garbage to basic
I
technique.
mean, I looked at it, man. Like I said, I remember watching you, man, at that NCAA tournament. I'm going to try rolls and try these different things. And again, my old man would say, "Well, man, hey, man, that's gimmick stuff, man. Don't worry about that. You got to keep it basic." But again, I think that's what we do as coaches. Instead of making this sport fun, letting kids do what they want to do, we have this, you got to do it this way. You got to do that. You got to, and sometimes the box just doesn't fit. I don't think the box fit Gerry Abas to be a traditional style wrestler. It didn't fit.
Oh, well, he ain't trying to be.
I mean, I can see that, man. And now to see how this stuff has taken flight in the sport of wrestling, you got your Delgado's, the kid out of Illinois some years back, man, was dangerous. I mean, he won national titles with this stuff.
Yep.
And I forget the match with Nashawn Garrett. This guy, Nashawn Garrett, hitting doubles. He was at Cornell.
Fast.
And next thing you know, boom, boom. I can think of right then and there, I think I told my son, my good friend, Coach Warren, it's Gerry Abas, man. He was from California. Baby, you know him. I don't know.
Yeah, he knows. I showed him them moves.
See?
Yeah.
I mean, how ironic, man.
Yeah.
How ironic. And then that kid won titles because of it. Now you look at it, now you see so many, little ones, doing this stuff. And how does that make you feel?
It's just great. Wrestling, you have to be creative. You have to be able to improvise. And when at the right time, and it's a great lesson in life as well. You need to know when to pivot.
Right.
It's time to improvise. Don't just keep going. It's not going to help. And in our mind, we get it in our head. Our kids, they got our favorite move.
Right,
and they're going to go for that first. We already know,
yeah.
And so we get tunnel vision, and we only want to get where we're confident that I've used this before. So the kids will go for their moves, but it's knowing to be able to. It's not there. Now what are you going to do?
Right.
Can you switch up? And so always encouraging kids to learn. You need to attack the left side. You need to be able to attack that right. You need to be able to hit them up high, wrestle from the shoulders. And you need to be able to hit them low too.
Right.
If you could build this arsenal, now you improvise. I like how Michael Jordan talked one time about basketball. It's like, you're with your team and you're drawing the X's and the O's and the run this way and the line this way. And you're supposed to follow that. But at the right moment, when you realize that plan is not working, now what?
Now what?
Improvise. At that
Right.
last split second, you improvise and you make it work. I always want to promote creativity with the idea of you'll be able to improvise better than those people who are locked into this tunnel vision mode that have always been doing it the same way every time. You say you might have a little bit of trouble improvising and pivoting when it's necessary.
Gotcha.
So I always encourage individuals to, find their style and nurture that, and don't be locked down to. And you can get inspiration from others, but to try to duplicate and be exactly like, I would discourage that from anybody. Don't be like me. Be different. Be better. Be different. Be you.
That's the evolution.
Individual. And that's the idea that wrestling's so complex that you could look at 10 wrestlers and they all wrestle a little bit different.
Of
and
course.
That's the beauty of it right there.
Yeah, and I definitely understand that, because I have different kids come from different walks of life, and you could definitely see an imprint of our style of wrestling, but they all have their different ways, and like I said, coming up with my father, it's this the way you have to do it, and I wanted to do something different, so I never ever pigeonhole a kid, because that took the fun away from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like throws. I like the funky stuff. I like
The
to have
fun
fun.
stuff.
Like, it's
It
fun,
looks good, too.
right? And it looks good, right? We don't want to. Because wrestling is tough as it is. So if we can find any enjoyment out of it,
Yes,
it's
sir.
great. So again, I was, like I said, a big fan of yours watching you, man. It was a joy to watch, being a freshman, sophomore in high school, watching you do your thing, man, was awesome. Now, let's fast forward to high school. What high school did you go to?
I went to Oakland Tech High School.
Oakland Tech
North
in Oakland.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And coach?
My coach is Ashley Sherman.
Ashley
Ashley
Sherman.
Sherman. He was actually a Greco coach.
Okay.
And Oakland during those days, it was everybody would locking up. I'm
Okay.
throwing you, you throwing me.
Right.
Somebody's getting pinned right
Somebody
now.
somebody
and he
going.
was a Greco wrestler, so
Okay.
he was teaching a lot of Greco in Oakland. He still runs the oldest
Wow.
wrestling club in California.
Wow.
It's called Wantu Wazuri, and that's
Wow.
Swahili for beautiful people.
Whoa.
Yeah, and Ashley Sherman with his friend Sylvester Carver,
Okay.
they started in the 60s. They started the club, and to this day, they don't charge membership fees.
Just come in and
Come
wrestle.
as you. Well, no fees. Come
Wow,
on, and
wow.
that was my club. And so yeah, he taught Greco, and I came in, and when I was coming in high school, John Smith was
Was the guy.
doing it, and you
Right.
used to know he dripped, right? He had style,
Right.
he had flavor, and I was
Right.
like, ooh, I like that. And you know, and I'm on the ground doing circles, and I see John Smith just darting out. I'm like, I can do that.
Right.
That ain't nothing. I can do that. I can shoot out to one side because, man, I've been trying to go in a circle and throw my back and jump to my head.
Right.
And you tell me that's hard, you know. And so it just was great timing, that breakdancing, being low level, being inspired by John Smith, you know, in college and winning the world, the Goodwill Games. And I loved, you know, I liked his style, and he was different.
Right.
And so I wanted to be like him, but everyone else in Oakland was up.
Upstairs,
Square
right.
stands, let's go. I'm down staggered, hitting low. And it was a great time, man, because I was taking shots and I wouldn't miss, man. I was
Right.
like 100 for 100.
Right.
It was like, bang, I'm scoring every time. What was with all these guys with square stands trying to throw me, you know, and
and you shooting.
they didn't know how to defend their legs.
Right, right.
So it was a good time. So that was my high school experience.
I mean, and so coming now, you know, like I look at kids, you know, I encourage them to start whenever you can. But starting at 7th grade, even back then, you had to be a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, well,
You know what I
I
mean?
didn't notice, you know, when I first started, it was all I just went to the local tournaments,
Okay.
and in the Bay Area, even Northern California, the
Okay.
wrestling isn't very defined. The
Okay.
toughest wrestling in California is generally in the Central Valley, Fresno,
Gotcha.
Clovis area.
Oh, okay.
And so, I didn't get to see that until state meet. You know, I went to state as a freshman, and then my eyes got opened up.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So 3-year wrestler, 1 division in California, you make it downstate.
Yeah, make it state. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And what did you do?
No, I had no business there. My first year, yeah,
you had
know?
you got you
I
like you
got
said
handed. It was
you
like
got
an
your
eye-opener.
eye opener. So now, usually that'll turn you off or turn you on. In this case, it must have had to turn you on.
Oh, yeah,
So what happened after that freshman year? After the eyes got
You
open?
know, I knew I had to get better, and the real jump that something clicked is that summer, my coach, we would drive to the AAU Grand Nationals. They were in Indianapolis for a long time. So we drove between that summer, between my freshman and sophomore year. He took us van load of
Van
us.
loaded.
Drove to Indianapolis. Car broke down in Lovelock, Nevada. I
know
met a
those
girl
days.
there. Had to say goodbye the next day. I still don't know what her name. I think about her. Who was that girl? And I went and I took second.
You took second.
It was freestyle. I took second at the AAU Grand Nationals, and when that just made me real confident.
That just took
When
the fire
I
out.
remember thinking with the mind of a breakdancer, going, I wonder if I could be the best wrestler in Oakland. I just blew my mind because I was like, man, if I was the best breaker in Oakland, oh my goodness.
Right.
So my mind was like, I want to be. How amazing would it be the best wrestler in Oakland? Well, when I went to the AAU Grand Nationals and took second, I came back. I knew I was the best wrestler in Oakland,
right?
And I just wanted to. Let's see how far I can go.
Wow.
And I love the sport. It wasn't about the awards and the accomplishments. It was just I loved playing this
loved to
game.
go.
I love the butterflies and then the ability to hit moves, pretty moves in the middle of hard fight. You hit a clean move where we don't fight. That was nice.
Right.
Like I like that, you know. And so Yeah, I mean that was my.
So going into
When I
sophomore
came back my sophomore year, I went 3-2 at state.
3-2 in state. So now we working. So
Yeah,
that
still
fire is
working.
that fire is burning.
Yep.
So we were right there, 3-2.
Yeah.
Now this is about your fourth, fifth year in the sport. Still hungry, still learning.
Yeah.
Now you
Yeah.
get to your junior year.
Yeah, my junior year, it was just things were starting to click. I made it to the finals, took second.
Made
at
it to
state.
the finals,
Yeah,
fifth year,
yeah.
one division.
Yeah, yep.
Most at this time probably had two divisions, the small school and the bigger schools. But till this day, California has one division.
Yeah.
And for you to be only probably wrestling for 4 years, that's astonishing, man. That's practically unheard of.
Yeah.
And what you took second.
Took second. Yeah.
And now I guess that fire is really burning now. Maybe
Yeah.
I want to be the best in California now.
Yeah.
Now,
no
what were you
doubt.
doing at that point after your junior year?
I think is really big is that I promote doing freestyle, so I was competing as much as I could, and during those years they had freestyle, the BAWA, Bay Area Wrestling Association. It's a USA Wrestling affiliated BAWA, and during that time they had freestyle tournaments in September and October. And maybe even part of November. Then we would start the folk style season.
Oh, wow.
And then I'd wrestle all the way through as much as I could. And so August was the only month that had no wrestling. So I think it was because I always wrestled. I wrestled all year round.
So
and then I think I made jumps like that, where a lot of people were taking breaks.
Right.
You
caught up.
I found every weekend, if there's a tournament, I'm
You
going.
going,
I'm
right.
going, and I didn't care if it was local or not. I mean,
I
whatever
tell tell my parents that right now. You got your regular folk style season. You probably get 40, 50 matches. On the youth level, but you want to go get some more matches. You know what I mean? You just can't beat reps. You can't beat. I mean, I don't care how good you are. We looked at Gable Stevenson. People thought it was just the biggest upset in the world. But to me, this guy was playing football. This guy was doing some WWE. I felt it was astonishing for him to even be in the finals, not to be wrestling with someone that's been going. I mean, because you just can't. I look at, I used to, my son was little, and we would be wrestling all year, man. And, he'd go visit his mom 1 month, out the summer. And this kid would come back. You would thought he was gone for 6 months away from the sport. So I know exactly what you mean if you just steady doing it, steady wrestling, and you making those leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
So now that we wrestling just about every week.
Yeah.
After our junior year, we get to our senior year. How you feeling now at this point going into the senior year?
I knew I was right up there.
Okay.
But I never wanted to put pressure on I have to win. More important is that, let it, give everything you have, play the game. In this way, it's your best chance at winning.
Right.
And so I knew I was right there. I don't remember thinking I have to win state,
Right.
but it was just things are going to happen, and so I ended up in my senior year, I lost in the semis. I wrestled a guy who ended up being a U.S. Olympian for judo.
Whoa.
And so, man, he threw me twice.
Oh, caught you.
That's 5 point, on my
Right.
low single, let go, low single. I just didn't have enough time to catch up to this guy,
right.
And so I lost, and just to keep going, I lost, and man, after that loss, I was out in the tunnel crying like a little baby, man,
Okay.
and it was devastated, and I just, to make myself feel better, I trained hard. I want to go win Fargo.
Okay.
And I won. It wasn't
won
Fargo at
Fargo.
that
Okay,
time.
right.
It was in Northern Iowa. It was
Okay.
Junior Nationals.
Junior Nationals,
Yeah, it was
right.
in Northern Iowa at the Unidome.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was there for a while. And that loss pushed me, and it burned, and I didn't like it. I pushed and trained harder, and I wanted to redeem myself. And so training hard and going and try to win that freestyle nationals, and I won it. I won that nationals by losing in
the
the
state
senior
finals,
year, state
yeah.
finals. He just gave
Even
me
in a
fire.
bigger bracket, bigger
Go
tournament.
do something bigger. Yep,
Right,
yep.
right.
And so
That's awesome.
that's
That's
right.
awesome.
Yeah, yep.
Now, placing second at California State again, one of the toughest states you could do. I mean, placing is really, really good in that one division.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're still hungry, I assume, coming off Junior National Championship.
Yeah, that was my senior year.
Senior
so at
year,
the end,
right? So it was
yeah.
at the end. Now, how were you being recruited? I'm quite sure coming off the
Yeah.
Junior Nationals.
Yeah, well, but I had already signed.
Oh, so you already signed?
Yeah, at the beginning of my senior year, I
Senior
signed
year,
to Fresno
said
State.
Fresno.
Yep,
What was
yep.
the coach?
Dennis DeLito.
Dennis DeLito.
Yeah, yep.
Been there for a long time.
He had 3 nephews that
Okay.
were wrestling. They're my age, so they
Okay.
were on the team as well.
Okay.
And boy, they loved wrestling as well. And when I went on a recruiting trip, and I can talk about this now, but the recruiting trip was supposed to be 2.5 days.
Right.
I was there for a week. Yeah. And because these guys, they just they were so warm. And I'm coming from Oakland,
Right.
I'm inner city, and I go out to Fresno and these rich people, in the valley.
In the
I was
valley.
like, this feels kind of nice,
right,
but
right.
they also had this passion of love for the sport that I had. And I'm like, man, I just joined the family.
Like-minded, right.
And I was like, I was about it, and I just knew these brothers were going to be my friends, and we're going to push each other. So it was a no-brainer. I'm going to Fresno State.
Right,
I wanted to go to ASU because they had just won the Nationals in
Right.
'88.
Charles and all them,
ASU won
right.
the NCAA.
Was Charles
in
on that
88.
team?
Yes, he
Sean
was.
Charles?
Yep, Marco Sanchez.
Okay.
Yeah, they won the Nationals in '88. I graduated in '90, so I was
Okay.
trying to go to ASU, but they weren't even taking my calls, man.
They didn't take your
They didn't
calls.
take my calls, and it's a funny story that I had signed to Fresno State, and then in the finals, I won the Espoir Nationals as well,
Okay.
my senior year. And Espoir is like the university age group now.
Okay.
There's like 18 to 20-year-olds. I won that Nationals, and
Wow.
in the finals, I beat Marco Sanchez. He was the starter at
At-
ASU,
Ooh.
and I beat him. And a day later, I
They
get
get
a
the
call,
call, right.
and I just had to tell him, I have already signed to Fresno State.
They
and
lost.
at first I wanted to be there, and as I look back, I'm glad I didn't. I had a
Right.
great college career. And who would have said if I would have went to ASU, I would have
You
won a
had that
couple more
same-
matches,
right,
2
right.
more matches? You try to tell me I would have won
Yeah.
2 more matches, 3 matches, and so I don't have any regrets. But that was just interesting. So yeah, my senior, I didn't get recruited heavily. Out of high school because I had signed by my after taking second as a junior. I was hit up by all the California colleges right away. And I went on my recruiting trips, and I decided to sign early.
Okay.
I felt the love. Fresno State, the DeLito, he would call me. It felt nice when I'm in the classroom in Oakland, and then the phone rings,
And it's coach.
and the teacher answers and says it's a coach from Fresno, and
Wow,
everyone's I'm
look
like, oh,
at-
let me take this call outside.
Outside.
Yeah, that felt great.
Right.
He would do it regularly. He could only call once a week, but he showed so much love, and I never felt anything like that. And when I went on the trip and met his nephews, it was
was
a
good.
done deal. Yeah.
I mean, like I tell people, to win that national title or make it to the finals or even have that All-American type year, everything has to line up. The social part, the training, wrestling take care of itself, but having that family, having that coach, I can see how that propelled the career that we're getting ready to talk about. So freshman year, 5th year, wrestling, 6 years wrestling in, and you did something remarkable. What was that?
I placed at the NCAAs my
Placed
freshman
at
year.
NCAAs, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, man. I mean, what was your record going into the NCAAs?
I was seeded 9th.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Pretty
I had
high
a good,
seed
I had a
as
good
a
year.
freshman.
Yeah, I had a
Okay.
good year. My freshman year, the big Vegas tournament. It's the
Okay.
beginning of the year,
Okay.
December, and I took 3rd.
And
That
what
was
weight were
whoa.
you at?
142 was the weight
142
class.
was the
Yeah,
weight class.
142.
And you had some bad boys in that
Oh
weight
yeah,
class.
yeah, man. There one wrestler, Tom Shiflett, he was a freshman as well, and I wrestled him probably 5 times in college.
And what university he went to?
He was at Edinburgh.
Oh, Edinburgh in PA.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he placed 4 times as well. He was a 4-time placer just like me. So we have this little bond because, it's funny how we, like, oh, there he is. And we want to hate. But now later on, like, man, it's good to see you again.
You guys one of them guys that push
Yeah, we made each other better.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
So going into the NCAAs, was you starstruck? I mean, nervous?
No, it's interesting, but I do these mental tricks to myself. I walk in. I remember going to the NCAAs my freshman year, and they were I think they were at Penn State. They were doing weigh-ins in the racquetball courts.
Wow.
So and there was a place at the top you could walk across the top and you can look over. There's a racquetball over here. You walk a little, you could see and so I went up top.
Okay.
And I looked down in my bracket. I saw everybody in my weight, and I was up there, and I was just talking to myself, feeling myself like these guys are sorry. They ain't got nothing on me. I was like that.
You ready to go?
Yeah, and man, maybe it wasn't true, but I believe in my skills are too cool. I have my skills. These guys ain't gonna know nothing like this. So it was a lot of positive self-talk. I don't know. I never carry myself arrogant, but maybe in my head, you would think like, man, I'm thinking nobody can touch this.
I tell my kids this all the time. I have a saying: if Mike Tyson walked in the room, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna whoop that coach right there." 90% of everybody, 98, 99.9 is gonna say, "Hey, Mike Tyson's gonna do." But I have to believe. That would be my message to my kids all the time. You have to believe. You may have to even trick yourself to believe you're the baddest thing in here.
Yes, sir.
And I tell them that it feels good to hear one of the baddest to do it feel the same way, man. Yeah. So now, what was your you got your feet wet in the NCAAs? Any one of those matches that stuck out to you?
There were that my freshman year in that blood round.
Okay.
It was on.
Okay.
I had my brother in my corner.
Okay.
Who was an All-American as a senior.
Okay.
At 118s, and my coach DeLito.
Okay.
And I'm in the blood round at NCAAs wrestling Shannon Gillespie.
Shannon Gillespie out of Illinois.
Lock Haven,
Yeah, out of Illinois.
Yeah, we're good friends now.
Yeah, I like. I think he's coaching at University for the girls right now.
Yes, he is. Yeah, great coach.
I know of Shannon Gillespie.
Shannon Gillespie, and I'm wrestling him in the blood round. It's just like we placing who winner places, right? Mm-hmm. And so. This is my freshman year, and I went out there, and man, I hit my snap down.
Okay.
I hit it on him 4 times.
The Matador.
4 times, man. Whoa. Like that.
Shannon, you got hit with the Matador.
Hey, if he's listening, he knows I tried it again at the Nationals, and it didn't work. Man, I'm like, what happened, Shannon? What? Come on. So but
wow.
And that really helps promote. Like that's why you wanted something. Because I've had coaches go, you're too technique. Sometimes you just got to be gritty.
Right.
Now, I get it, but when you say too technique, well, I want to show you something. I did this one move 4 times, and that was technique.
Right.
And so that just a reminder that technique trumps it all. Even speed's better than strength. We already know.
Yep.
And so a lot of people who don't know wrestling, they think, oh, it's that big buff guy. He must be mean. Yeah. But it was that
That
was
that match, huh?
Yeah, it was that. And man, I won. So I snapped him down 4 times. Then he threw me, put me on my back.
Whoa.
And I got away. Now it's tied up.
Whoa.
Yep. And we're going into overtime.
Okay.
And first person to score. We both shot at the same time. I was just slightly lower.
Okay.
And I ended up getting under. And I got back points, too. And, dude, after that match, I was out again in the tunnel crying like a little baby. I was so happy.
Right.
I didn't even sleep that night. My next match, I wrestled Shannon Gillespie and whooped him good because I was in a place like I had already placed. And so... after that blood round, I had one more match, and then you're done for the day. Man, I went home, and I laid in bed like a kid at Christmas time, man. I had a smile on my face all night. I'm sitting there just being happy. Next thing you know, I hear my coach knocking at the door. I didn't hardly even sleep, man. Time to
Wow.
go.
Time to go.
So the next morning, I wasn't all together.
Oh,
I lost 2 in a row.
Okay.
You know, but it was just, I was so happy that I placed. My brother was crying too. My brother was happy for me too.
Wow,
So we're
wow.
both sitting there crying. He placed as a senior. I don't know if he was crying because I placed as a freshman, you know. But you know, it was just a beautiful moment
Man,
right
that's
there.
like to do
And
that
some
as a
people will
freshman.
ask me, "What is the moment?" And it's not running out on the stage, on the podium, on the you know finals. It was that one.
Was that one?
That one. To be an All-American that first time, that felt so special to me. I know it was hard because my tough brother, who's nobody's tougher than my brother,
Right.
he couldn't even do it till his senior year.
Right.
My brother, let me side note, was small, 118s, but in the neighborhood, he was a kid
He
that
was the
kicked
big
everybody's
dog.
butt, and it was impressive. Like the small guy was making a big dude tell him, and I wanted to hang around my brother. He
Right.
was cool, and everybody else thought he was cool. My brother was like that. He had this energy,
Wow.
and you know what? I wanted to be like my brother. I wanted to make him proud. And when I remember when I was in high school, seeing the national rankings, and he's ranked like 6th in the country,
Whoa.
and I'm looking, going. It blew my mind that he's not that good. What blew my mind that there's 5 guys tougher than my brother.
Couldn't believe
I
it.
couldn't believe it, man.
Wow.
Like, no way. And so
Wow.
that made me go, wow. Like, how good can we get, you know?
And it seems like that, you know, when you have those inspirations, man, like
Yeah.
took his senior year, but you've been following them, you've been watching, so that passion translated, that dog came out. I could just see it and feel it coming, just talking to you about it, and I bear witness so many times to see, you know, brothers like the Williams brothers that I grew up with, Joe Williams, Stevie Williams, and TJ.
Yeah.
You know, seeing Stevie do great things and Joe following, then TJ following, you know, Joe. I can see how that works, how that maturation comes.
Yeah.
Now, you got that out the way. You're All-American. You're feeling good. You know, there's some things that most didn't do. Again, astonishing. You only been wrestling a short amount of time, 5-6 years. You do something.
It's
place.
that breakdancer.
It has to be. I mean,
Yeah.
can't no one just 5 years in, 6 years in, whatever it was, place in the NCAAs. Now, how do you feeling? What do you go into the next season? Are you relaxing or are you getting back at it? What was going on now?
Always, you know, and it's a good thing and with my son I did, is that we take a break from wrestling by doing freestyle.
Okay.
You know, because I say, you know, isn't it not that the folk style, the writing, the top and bottom, is the biting and scratching of our sport. That's the gritty.
Right.
The writing. Not
Right.
the takedown. I hit you clean takedown. That didn't hurt. That didn't feel
Right.
nothing. But get off that bottom.
Get off that bottom.
Hold that full down. That's the gritty.
That's the dog.
And that's the hard. And so when you're doing freestyle, it's none of that. Rolls,
Right.
throws, and takedowns.
That's it.
Wee,
That's
this is
it.
fun.
It's-
Rolls, throws, and takedowns, you
Yeah.
know? And so that was it. So, yeah, when you say that I jump back on, I just love this sport. You
Well,
know what?
nothing.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep trying to get better. You know, it wasn't like, you know, and I wanted to keep trying to get better. I told the story yesterday to the wrestlers that I would go to a tournament and hit my low singles all weekend, boom, and I'd come back to practice on Monday and drill it like it was no good.
Wow.
I'm gonna make it even better.
Wow.
You know, and so when I was always trying to just keep improving and see how good I can get, and then let's just, you know, let's see where
See
we
where it
land.
end up
Yeah,
at,
so
right.
I just kept wrestling.
Just kept wrestling. You get into your-
trying to get better and better.
Get into your sophomore year now.
Yeah.
Got that All-American out the way. We've been rolling all summer. We've been training. Now, how was our sophomore year looking? Like, did we come out top ranked or how was we looking?
Yeah, and I remember, I'm not sure, not remembering the rankings of my sophomore year. What I really remember my sophomore year is how everyone started wrestling me harder. It was all of a sudden, it's like, man, why are people wrestling like I took something from them? Well, it makes sense because you're a senior. You ain't placed yet.
You ain't placed yet.
And here comes this freshman that placed. And that told me right away, like, oh, once you place at that NCAAs, you better be ready to rock that.
You gotta be
because
ready to
now they're
go.
trying to take something more. Now, that ain't just a normal win. You just beat an All-American,
Right.
And today, right now, that's blasted all over the internet
Exactly.
right away. Like some upsets,
Right.
and you know, so. Everyone was wrestling me hard. I felt the harder
You
aggressive,
felt it.
and I had to represent. Like, okay, I'm not gonna go out like that. You know, I'm not gonna. You know, and so I was gonna. I gotta match that energy and sharpen my moves even more. Mentioned earlier, technique trumps all that speed and strength.
Right.
So I want to get crisp with my stuff. You know, hit my technique, and that's I always just focused on the technical details, going hard. You can learn the gritty just by getting out there.
Right.
You can learn the gritty by pushing your body. Your coach says, get up when you're tired, get up. This is learning the gritty.
Right.
But to learn the art, that's different.
A little bit
You need to be wanting to paint those pretty strokes.
Right.
You know? Yep.
So now we in the Pac-12. Was it the Pac-12?
Yeah, Pac-10 at that time.
Pac-
No,
okay.
when I was in college, we were in the WAC,
In the
Western
WAC.
Athletic Conference.
Okay.
Yep,
And who else was in there?
Air Force.
Air Force.
University New Mexico was in it until they dropped. San Diego State was in it, and they dropped their program as well. BYU was in it. BYU was in the WAC. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And Wyoming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
There might
so-
have been one more school in there at the time.
So you run through that, get back to the NCAAs. You're rolling. First match out the way, second match out the way.
Yeah.
How you feeling now? I mean,
I'm feeling good. You know, it's just, hey, I'm doing my thing. You know,
Okay.
and I'm now I'm a seasoned. When I'm thinking about, because we went through this quick, like in 5 minutes, we went from 7th grade. But I realized that I was a seasoned at that time.
Okay.
And I was, I was hardened, right? I was ready. I had felt it all. So what once felt difficult was just normal.
Normal now.
Now it's just how it is. You know, it ain't difficult no more. It's still. It might even be tougher, but I was tougher.
You got better.
Know, I got better, but also learned that this sport is gritty. You know, in college, it's not a bunch of new moves. It's just you're doing things with a little bit more aggression.
Right.
You know, there's a little bit more, little more oomph in there. That's why it's harder to take a guy down in college. Just because you got a leg, that doesn't mean you're gonna finish, right? In high school, you got a leg, you 3/4 of the way. And in college, you got a leg, man, you got a quarter. You're a quarter barely, you know. And so, you had to learn that you got to stay gritty, you know, and it ain't always going to be pretty, but be ready for the gritty.
Okay.
That was for sure.
okay, and we make it to the finals. Who do we have on the other side?
So I
sophomore year?
wrestled Lincoln McElravy.
Iowa's
the finals.
legend.
Yeah, and he was a 50-pounder. During that time, there was no, like well, I guess they don't have that anymore, or where you had to stay at a certain weight class.
Stay in a certain weight class.
No, he wrestled 150 all year
all
long.
year, then come down.
Then drop down. And he was great. He was a great
I mean,
wrestler.
but I watched that match. You know, I watched it live. When one live, they recorded it. I believe it was. I watched. Me and my dad watched.
Yeah.
And then I watched it sometime ago. You jumped out early in that match, man.
I'm the type of wrestler as like just coming from my breakdance, and it was like, hey, when the lights are on
It's
and it's
on.
your turn, it's on. And I loved it. I'm one of those.
Right.
Like the bigger the stage, the better I'm a wrestler.
Right.
And
And
so
it
I was
seemed that-
one of those.
And yeah, I mean that match you jumped out, but McElravy stormed back. It was a great match. You guys got to go YouTube that match, man. Awesome match. How did you feel after that loss?
You know, after the loss, obviously I lost. You
Okay.
know, and I felt bad about it, and it took a while. You know, I wanted to win it. I was there. I tasted it. I felt it in the middle of the match. I'll tell people. I thought I was like, I'm about to tech this fool.
Right.
I thought I was
I
gonna tech
thought
him.
so.
In my mind,
Man,
I was gonna tech him.
Jerry,
Yeah.
now you jumped out. I think you put about 6 or 7
I just didn't
points
have the
on.
gas tank, man. And so during this time, what did the Brands brothers say? How we train to make. We do things that make billy goats puke. That's the Brands brothers. That's how they trained. You know, in the 80s and the 90s,
That was
Iowa
serious.
struck fear in the all wrestling world. They'd make full-grown men cry and
Right.
break, you
Right.
know? And it was just their way of training. So it put, Losing to him, obviously, I was close to winning, but always in the back of my mind, like, well, he's Iowa, you know, and he was bringing that. What I noticed when I would hit somebody with a clean move and burn them, I call it a burn.
Right.
When you get the ooh, that means you
You
burned
burned
him.
him,
He didn't show no defense. He had no time. And when I would burn somebody, they would usually slow down, wouldn't they? They'd be like second guessing, like, wait a minute. That was just too easy. And that happened so much. With McAravey, he didn't slow down, man.
Came back harder.
I tell him, I'm like, man, wait a minute. Can't you just think about how easy I took you down right there? Just take a second.
Take a minute,
He
think
did
about it.
No,
Just kept
he
coming.
just kept coming. He just kept coming. So kudos to that. You know, he didn't get shook, and he just kept that pressure. And I was used to fools, you know, blinking, you know, at least pausing.
Right.
And that would motivate me too.
Right.
Like, that's right. You know, I got
got
you.
you.
Here comes
Right.
some
Here
more.
comes some more.
You know, and so, but he kept coming, and he earned that win. I couldn't match his energy. You know, the months before, he was training harder than me.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be serious as saying, like, you know, if you're doing things in Iowa that make Billy Goat puke, you know what? I had a little more fun in college than that. I ain't gonna lie. You know, I had a good time in college. I pushed, but no, I would not like that.
Right.
And so it was good. He earned that win.
Okay.
He
I mean,
earned
it was
that
a fun
win.
match watching
For a
you
while
guys.
there, I'll watch the video. I only watched the first 2 rounds. Like, turn that off.
Turn that
now.
off.
Yeah.
I
but,
definitely, like I said, it's one of my fun matches.
and I'm blessed
watch.
that people still talk about that match because,
Man,
you know, if I would have beat him like 4-3, and nobody would have been talking about match today. So, you know, me in this loss, you might call this is my greatest loss because people will still talk about it. But and maybe the truth is my greatest loss is probably better than some people's greatest win.
No, that was a match.
Because people were still talking about it. I was glad to be a part of that story. I gave a crowd, like, you don't know wrestling. That was a great match to watch.
That was a great match
I was
to
kicking
watch.
his butt, and he was coming back, you know. And
Great
kudos
match
to
to
the
watch.
underdog, because I made him look like an underdog in the beginning.
Oh, man.
And so now he's big, bringing up, and we were in Iowa, mind you.
Oh, y'all were in
That
Iowa.
first round, boy, I had that crowd silent.
Oh, man.
And that first takedown he got, that crowd erupted. Boy, he must have got some superpower or something.
Of course, that Iowa fan base.
That Iowa fan base, nothing like it, you know.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it was a great time, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have that loss. He said winning comes in a lot of flavors. I've seen guys win 1-0, and he gets booed. Man, you didn't do nothing. You were stalling, and then here comes someone that loses a match 15-16 and still getting props 30 years later.
But that's what we ain't got that much time, but I do want to say this, like, that's what I loved about watching you wrestle. You could have shut that match down. You were still coming as well. You were still attacking, and you know what I mean. You didn't quit. I mean, like, that was a great match, man. Like, you went all the way through till you couldn't no more. I remember when you just laid down, like,
you know, when you hit that spot where, like, how bad do you really want it? Yeah. And I pushed what I could, you know.
I mean, you did what you could. I mean, but it was a great match, man. You left it all out there.
I did.
You know, and that's something, like I tell all my kids, no matter what, you know, we may not get our hands raised in every match, but you could tell that match was something that could catapult you, and I'm quite sure it did, because you end up going back to the finals two more times.
Yeah.
And I know those losses probably stung as well.
They're different, though. You know, you put them in perspective. My junior year, I lost to Alan Freed from Oklahoma State. I don't know if you know about Freed. So bad. He hit that outside high C. Nobody was hitting high C's like him with the other hand.
Right.
And, you know, and to this day, that's the reshot attack.
Right.
He was doing that. And some people, when you lose to, don't feel that bad.
Right.
You know, there's a respect. Like, you know, the guy was legit. He was a worthy opponent, worthy enough to beat you. We have to be able to look at stuff like that and not be all big-headed. Like, that guy had skills. He was good, you know, and you don't have to hate on that, you know. So I wanted to win, too. I gave him a good match. And, no, don't get me wrong. No, I wasn't doubting myself. I never doubted. I was going to give you my best. It don't matter who you were, you know. But that loss didn't sting as much. Like the McAravey was the one that stung a little more at the end. But that one, you know, it stung, but not as bad, because I knew I liked his style. I thought he was good.
Right.
He was a good wrestler to me, you know.
So
Yeah.
who was the other loss?
So senior year, I'm in the middle, 3/4 through the season, and we go have a dual match against Boise, and my coach bumps me up to 150. I go out there and I wrestle this guy who's like a spaz, man. Like, well, you know, it's still spaz. Like, dude, calm down already.
Right.
You know, and I took a shot. He ran around behind me, and he went and lift and dump, and I went for a roll, and I didn't get enough rotate through there. Boom, I broke my clavicle.
Oh, wow.
And I was
didn't know
out.
that.
I was
Okay.
out, and I was sitting that was a devastating moment because I wanted to win the nationals.
Right.
You know, I take second twice. Here's my senior year. I'm ranked number
Right,
one in the
right.
country. I'm supposed to win it all, and boom, I get a career-ending injury. The doctor comes in and says, "You're done. You know, this season's over." And as he just sits there and lets me start crying and sobbing, and he goes, "Well, you can get Novocaine shots." I'm you know?
Well,
And
thank
that's
you.
what I did.
Okay.
So my sister, who was a physician assistant, brought the stuff. So I'm at the NCAAs getting shots in my arm.
Wow.
10 cc's shoot in my arm, so I couldn't feel nothing. Wrestling out there. Make it to the finals, but by the finals, I had, you know, because the shots only last a few
So
hours.
long, right.
And so I had 50 cc's by the finals.
Wow.
And man, so I was in the finals at the NCAAs my senior year in this place where I'm
Loopy.
like, I'm trying to, loopy, man. I was like beside myself.
Wow.
And there was butterflies and emotions mixed
Right.
with that
Mixed
too,
with that,
you know.
right.
And so it was a weird feeling, like I gotta win this. But when I first ran out there, my coaches say that I ran to the wrong corner. Even, you know, I didn't know where the corner was.
Wow.
And my senior year, my loss, I was probably one of my worst losses ever.
Wow.
Just to add to that, you know, I only pinned one time in college. It was my very first match. I never pinned again after. So my first match, I got a pin. My very last match was my worst match.
Worst match.
That's
And who was that to?
interesting, you know, summarization. But it just shows, don't just look at the black and white. There's all kinds of beauty up in there.
And who was that loss to?
It was to Hughes, John Hughes.
John Hughes.
Penn State.
Penn
There was
State.
Russ Hughes and John,
John,
twin
yeah,
brothers.
twin brothers.
Penn State. Yep.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
even after the finals, they interviewed Hughes, and he gave props like that wasn't Abas.
Right,
You could tell
right,
there
yeah,
was something
yeah.
that there's something
Well, I
wrong with
mean,
him. So
you
he
definitely
gave respect there.
50 cc's at that point.
Yeah,
I don't know
man.
how you was even walking
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, real quick, as we got to wrap up, we got to get back to the camp.
Yeah.
Your son, Jaden, you started him when he was about 7. And now he's at his last year at Stanford. Let's talk a little bit about him real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that was a joy watching him grow in the sport.
Oh, man.
I mean, what did you get from that?
You know, really quick, you know, my dad was gone out of the picture.
Okay.
My dad we lost communication. He moved away. He didn't know I wrestled. He didn't know my younger brother, Steven, was an Olympic silver medalist. He didn't even know his own son was Olympian. And so, you know, when I had a son, I just knew I was good. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give time and a half right now, right about now. And I had this gift. I got this gift of wrestling, and I'm about to show my son and go on a journey with my boy. And you tear me up right now, man,
I mean,
because you know
watching you
it was this yearning feeling from my dad. He ain't around, but when my son comes, I'm gonna show him that love. I'm gonna give it to him. I'm gonna give him mine, and I'm gonna give him what was missing from me, you know. And so, yeah, I took him on the wrestling journey, always trying to keep my mind on the bigger picture, not getting lost at the local tournament like this is the darn Olympics, you know. Always going bigger picture, help promote the growth. And for him, I would try to every year from 7th grade through high school, or probably by the time 8th grade, from 7 years old to 8th grade,
Okay.
I tried to add another higher level. So we didn't go to Tulsa or Reno Worlds right off the bat. It was local tournaments, then state, then regional, then national. So just trying to slowly add a little bit more, and then as he got better, you go to bigger tournaments.
So how does it feel to see your son get ready to walk across that Stanford stage and get that degree from Stanford University?
Well,
Man?
you
How
know,
was that?
there's no professional wrestling You know, and the best thing we can do for is wrestling is not just learn the life lessons, the beautiful life lessons, but get your college paid for.
Right.
You get your college paid for. So it's nice that Stanford gives him a check every month, you know,
Right.
and him for being in that environment. You know, that was my goal, just for him. You know, it's not just wrestling, but what about after wrestling? That
right.
was important, you know. And so I definitely wanted to go to Stanford, and you know, it's just awesome. He already got his degree. He's getting his master's
wow,
now.
he's getting his master's.
Yeah, he's getting his
I
master's.
know you're a proud father, man.
Yeah.
Proud dad. Congratulations on
Thank
that,
you.
man.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, man. I mean, we could have did this for another 2 to 3 hours, man.
Yeah.
But we will have you back. And if you guys want one of the baddest dudes, the godfather of funk wrestling, you got to reach out to this man here. My kids are going crazy after the camp. He's got to come back. I'm like, literally, I wasn't here on the first day. Sorry about that. But I got at least 12 calls, man, about how great you are. So we definitely going to have you back.
Thank you.
And, man, I thank you for coming on Off the Mat. When you do come back, we're going to spend a little more time on here, you know, but it was great to have you on. One of the baddest to do it, Gerry Abas. Thank you for coming on Off the Mat with Donny Whitted.
Thank you, Donny.
And check us out again. We got another surprise guest coming on here in the next week or two. And thanks for tuning in for Off the Mat with Donny Whitted.